Historical Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Hello and welcome to the monthly program of the Historical Society of Berks County. I'm your host, George M. Miser IX, President of the Historical Society of Berks County and publisher of the Historical Review of Berks County, the Society's quarterly magazine in print since October of 1935. Not incidentally, most back issues of the Historical Review are still available from the late 1930s up to the present time. It should be noted that this program is telecast live on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. It repeats Friday night at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Welcome all to our October 2009 program. Seated beside me is Joshua Blay, Historical Society's Museum Curator and Associate Director.
Good evening, George.
Good evening. Seated beside Joshua is Kimberly Richards, Society Archivist and Library Director.
Hi, George.
Evening.
Our museum, Henry Janssen Library, and museum store are open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our museum store committee has been busy at work on repainting and reorganization of the store, and we've got a wonderful selection of books, toys, and pottery from Brian Kunkelman, Lester Brininger, and Noldie Forest Pottery. Brand new additions include frame pressed flowers and tollware.
We remind viewers that for $40, you can be one of us, a member of the Historical Society of Berks County. Membership in the Society includes our prize-winning quarterly magazine, the Historical Review of Berks County. Membership includes unlimited use of the museum and library. Incidentally, family memberships, those are all living in one household, are $50 a year.
And while we're on the subject of memberships, George, we remind you that Berks Community TV, BCTV, is a survivor and a talk venue and a unique entity in that it's interactive. You are encouraged to call in with your questions and comments to 610-378-0426.
Why not salute BCTV for all the great shows it provides to Reading and Berks, and send a check for $30 for a year's membership. Mail your check to BCTV, 645 Penn Street, Reading, 19601. Remember, time passes, but operating expenses never go away.
Well, the good news is that our newest volume of The Passing Scene, number 17, is just about completed and will be ready for distribution on Saturday, December 5th, which is the same time I believe our esteemed host has a First Saturday program talking about the book.
Oh, yes.
Just in time for the holidays. Among the top features of the upcoming volume are never-before-seen photos of Carsonia Park, the building and operation of the Neversink Mountain Railroad, Robesonia Furnace's history, the story of Berks artist Ben Austrian, whose Perkiomen Avenue log cabin and chick paintings are well known locally and nationally, part of the Bon Ami. What company was that, George?
What I mean? Cleanser Company.
Cleanser Company. And lavishly illustrated stories about writing master accordionist Anthony Mondi and Roy Smeck, internationally celebrated Wizard of the Strings, who appeared in many films and on some 400 recordings.
Yes, indeed he did. A few copies of Volume 15 and 16 remain for sale at $45, tax included. We remind you that once these are sold, there will be no reprints.
And we have a special sale going on Volume 13, which is $30 cash and carry in the museum store.
And in full realization of the present economic situation, we're keeping the selling price of the upcoming Volume 17 at $45, tax included. And while we're on the subject of the forthcoming Passing Scene, Volume 17, to be distributed December the 5th, let's see some views from this upcoming 272-page book. Joshua, you want to talk about that a little bit?
This is the former. Do you ever know the build date of that, George?
Yeah, the Manatoni Station at Glendale.
Glendale. Did you ever realize the build date of that station? You ever hear it?
Yes, I do have that. It was at 1870.
This originally was on the Colebrookdale line, the road that ran from Pottstown up to Bartow. It's still there. It just runs up to Boyertown now. The road's inactive now, but that station, unfortunately, was the subject of a Viking funeral in 71 or 72. It was a practice burn for the Stowe Fire Department because the factory is still there, stainless steel, I believe it's called, or was called then. The factory owned the property for storage, and they decided they would rather have another building, so they offered it for a practice burn to the local fire department.
And they gave the honor to Mr. Schaefer, the oldest resident of the area, age 84, so it was his honor to torch the place. That barn that we see in the background fronts on, what road was that?
Is it Manatoni Road?
Manatoni, yeah. Yep. It comes down Manatoni, and then it joins Pine Forge Road. That's a little harder to get to than one would suppose. I looked at an old map, and there was a road that came down, a public road came down, made like an L.
Probably just to the south of that barn.
Yeah, exactly what it did. And we were curious how we could get a now picture.
Now.
And there's today's now picture.
You can see that wonderful warehouse took the place of Manatoni Station, originally at Glendale. Now Glendale was the terminology that remained in use up until the 1920s. I had sort of forgotten that until I began doing some research. There was a Glendale covered bridge that burned about 1938. And the old chapel in that village, Bailey's Chapel, I saw a Sunday school report in 1909 that referred to it as the Glendale Chapel, known to more people probably as the Pine Forge Chapel, which was removed this past June. Anyhow, that picture, had I left to my devices, we wouldn't be seeing that picture tonight, but Joshua is a bit more daring than I, and he managed to get that picture. Now, the only way to get there today, two ways. One would be to come down alongside that barn and jump over a 10-foot fence, or...
Bring your pole vault.
Yes, with a pole vault, or to cross a trestle. And that's exactly what Joshua did. He crossed a trestle, and he managed to get in there to get that photograph to share with us. We have the next picture there. Now before we got to that trestle, there's Bailey's, Bailey's trestle. And there were actually, after Bailey's, weren't there three?
There was another one like this, and there was a much shorter metal one. This one up here is a wooden bridge, and there's not a lot of those left at all. But the upper part of the metal, you can't tell from the picture, but the upper part of the bridge was reinforced with eye girders, when the other bridge, which you'll see another picture of in a minute, was reinforced in probably 56. You can't see from this photograph either, but I know George got a photograph of it. But on the left-hand side of that bridge, you can see the date it was last painted, and it says June 1956.
Yeah, June 56. Bailey's Trestle. Joseph L. Bailey's Trestle. That, that's Mr. Blay there, prominently shown in the center.
Look for the yellow sign.
Yes, look for the yellow sign, and that is he right beneath the yellow sign. That crosses over Pine Forge Road, and
it's the Ironstone Creek.
Yeah, the Ironstone Creek.
In the background.
And in order to get the picture of that station that we just saw, Mr. Blay went up a very steep incline on the right-hand side and crossed over the top, over the creek.
He allegedly did.
Oh, I'm sure you did. We have the next one, please. Want to comment on that, Joshua?
That's just a sort of a top view of the bridge. George was wondering if the tracks didn't continue, but the only reason that it looks like they don't continue is because the road hasn't been used in about a year. The county commissioners pushed for a purchase of the line because it was going to be abandoned. I forget how many rail miles there are between Pottstown and Boyertown, but it really is a beautiful line. There just really isn't that much economic business at the time, but hopefully some business will relocate there. Maybe they can run some excursion trains on the road, because it's really a beautiful line up along the creek.
That would be a great line.
The bridges it crosses, it's just a really, really nice line. I forget, maybe you remember, George, when they had the Boyertown Opera House fire, they were running special trains up that railroad.
1908.
And I forget the frequency of those trains, but there was a lot of trains running up that road after the Boyertown Opera House fire for caskets and relief and what have you coming into Boyertown.
Speaking of caskets, didn't a gentleman tell us that into the 1970s, 75 or so, they were delivering wood on this line to the Boyertown Casket Company?
Yeah, the guy who lived just beyond it and to the right-hand side, he has a former farm there. When he first moved in, he remembers a lot of trains going up to Boyertown for the Boyertown Casket Company, and also
frames.
Probably frames being delivered, I would expect being delivered to Boyertown Body Works, because they probably would have taken the frame and put the body on their frame. And it's possible they shipped finished trucks out of there too by train, but there used to be a lot of business on that railroad, but not too much. Well, there's nothing now, but hopefully they can. The county commissioners think they've saved the line, but just a matter of getting some business there, doing something with the railroad.
The next one.
That's just another shot of the bridge there. You can see the walkway on the left-hand side and the weeds. Same thing.
That's a good shot. I like that. Here was a mystery for us. You know, I always wondered why in the world the Laureldale Cemetery was at Tuckerton. I could never understand that exactly. That was the Pennsy station on Tuckerton Road. But what threw us for a while, when I say us, I mean me, was the fact that the sign in the foreground says Laureldale. Now, Laureldale evolved into, well, it's a borough today. But that was a Reading Company sign, and it faced the Reading Company tracks that would be here in the foreground on the right-hand side. And in the back, you had a Pennsy station. There were a number that looked like that in this general locality, and back there is a boxcar. Did you tell me that was a frame boxcar?
It was a, I'm not sure what kind of boxcar it is, but it's an old wooden, steel reinforced wooden boxcar.
Now, if you were to go to that, we weren't sure exactly where this was located because that Laureldale sign threw us off. And but that is actually on Tuckerton Road.
I love how rural it looks when you compare it with what happens today.
With what happens today.
Yeah.
Now, the three things that you see there do survive. That cement drainage block of whatever that is, I get cement, the utility pole, and also the signal crossing. Those three appear are still there today. I'm not sure whether that's the same crossing signal or not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
There's gates there today.
That's right.
But cement's exactly the same, and you'll see in a minute. Well, slightly discolored.
Aha. And in the background, taking the place of that Pennsy station, what's it called?
It's a lumber company. I can never remember.
Yeah, I can't either. But it's on Tuckerton Road, so that the Laureldale sign was in point of fact between Temple and Tuckerton. The Temple station, which we can't see, would be right here over on the right-hand side, just out of the frame. And is that up for sale right now?
I think it's up for lease by the Reading and Northern Company. That was the original, was it Reading or Pennsylvania Road Station out of Frankville?
Yeah, I'm not sure which it was.
I think it was the Reading station, but I'm not sure.
I kind of think so, too.
If you look at that bit of concrete beneath that horrible gentleman's sandals, if you can go back one, Kim, it's the same piece of concrete there. They actually, the reason I sort of knew where that photograph was, because the Reading Company Technical and Historical Society had a magazine recently that showed improvements to the area when they were building that Blandon low-grade line, which is the line that goes up between Laureldale and Blandon, that replaced the other railroad. They used to go through Temple, which is now gone.
That was the high grade.
Yeah, that was they called that the original hill line because it went over a steep, not incredibly steep, but steep enough hill over Temple, and that line's now gone. This line used to go up beyond Fox and Pretzels and up through that way.
And past the old Temple furnace.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
Okay.
Oh, I think we're going to take a little break, and Joshua, is it your turn?
Yeah, I've got some photos to show here. We're working with a couple flash drives tonight, so we're having lots of fun with that.
Okay.
Okay, I brought along some photos. First of all, have a look at some photos of our newly opened rifle exhibit that opened last September. We had well, last month I should say, on September 12th. We had a very, very good crowd for the opening, standing room only. We had a fair amount of people up in the balcony, but this is our premiere exhibit in our new Palmer Gallery, which was where the library was located before they moved across the street, the new Janssen Library. This is our Berks County long rifles display. We have rifles dating from 1761 up to the mid-late 1800s. We have the rifles divided up into categories. As you can see, that sort of sectionalized map above the rifle there. We have it divided into the four corners of the county and also Reading itself. Some people have said to me, this gun is upside down. Well, I'm afraid it's not, because although you can't see it on this photograph, the brass patch box on the right-hand side is engraved Womelsdorf, and when it's up this way, it's legible in the right side up. So rifles used to be displayed this way, so that's why we've displayed it this way. Go to the next one, if you can go to the next one, Kim. Thank you. We have about 54 rifles, 54 pieces, I should say, of guns. We have 2 pistols and 52 rifles. One rifle, which is in the case at the top there, is an old German rifle to talk about the origination of the Berks County rifles, sort of an ancestor rifle, if you will. We also have a wonderful display of powder horns, as you can see there in the bottom, but this is at our main entrance to the gallery itself. This is sort of a back view of the exhibit. You can see the entrance wall in the back left corner there. In the middle, we have 2 cases back to back. This sort of worked out perfectly as far as geographic layout. That's the Reading rifles there in the middle. Then we have Ole Valley on the right-hand side underneath the painting. We have Blue Mountain, and we have below the Schuylkill, and we have the 5th one, which is escaping me, unfortunately.
What did you mention?
Ole Valley, Reading,
Kutztown?
Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain, that's the one. So we haven't divided them up into the exhibit. We've had a lot of traffic coming in. We even had a gentleman who came in from a couple of hours away just to see the exhibit. And we have a wonderful book for sale in our museum store, including some limited edition numbered and signed copies. But every rifle here you see is reproduced in that hardcover book in color. As you'll see in a minute, I believe I have it on one of the photos here. Every rifle that has a number in the exhibit corresponds to the exact same number in the display. So if you want to, you can take your book and bring it in to the exhibit and compare. And of course, you'll have it for a keepsake after the exhibit closes. We've actually had a gentleman come in maybe about 4 times now. He's looking to replicate a rifle based on one of the Angstadts. There was a couple, at least Angstadts, who made rifles. And he's brought in his rifle. He's crawling around on his back and everything, getting undershot views of the rifles on display so he can replicate it. It's a pretty close exact rifle for himself, but he's really enjoyed coming in and comparing it with what he's done so far.
That's a good picture, Joshua.
Thank you. I didn't take it.
Oh.
I'm impressed. Patrick Hornberg came in and he was looking for some good photos. And it's hard. Some of the cases have mirrors. Well, all the upright cases have mirrors on the left-hand side. This is the. You can see those numbers there, even though this is an upside-down shot. This is the Ole Valley case, which you can walk all around the side of it. But as you can see, you're looking sort of at the back side, or at least what we consider the back side of the gun stocks today, and you can see the decoration of the opposite side to the flintlocks. In this case, about half the rifles are laid one way with the gun stocks on the right-hand side, and the other half they're on the left-hand side. So it's pretty neat. You can walk around. But on the other flat and the other upright cases, we have a piece of mirror on the left-hand side, so you can see both sides of the rifle, both sides of the gun stock. The quality and the craftsmanship of the rifles just continues to astound me, even though I'm not much of a rifle aficionado or a fanatic or a rabid fan or what have you, but the craftsmanship alone is very, very impressive.
And they're displayed so well.
This case came out pretty good. This really helped me to understand and have an appreciation for the long rifles. There's a gentleman that lives in Gap and Lancaster County who Simon Bertolet, our executive director, knows. This gentleman down in Gap makes rifles from scratch. Now he doesn't do like the flint locks, he doesn't do those from scratch, but just about all the other metal work and all the woodwork he does from scratch. Most of the time he does buy blank gun stocks, but as you can see, this case is laid out sort of as a rifle in progress, and the gentleman even supplied some wood chips. So we can have those for effect in the case. But in the back you can see a blank gun stock. In the middle is a roughed out piece of a wood with some parts attached to it, including the flintlock. And the bottom, although it's not too easy to see, is just about a rifle called In the White before it's stained and varnished.
What kind of wood is that, you know?
A lot of the rifles that we have are curly mapled. I'm not sure if cherry was one. I'm trying to remember the woods that they would have typically used, but
any ash?
Yes, I think so. I'm not sure if these ones have ash in them or ash or not. And that's our rifle exhibit. And I think I know what the next photo coming up is. Ah, yes. This wonderful lady is not in a rifle exhibit. This is Kim.
Evelyn Reniger-Strunk.
Evelyn Reniger-Strunk. She was a competitor for the Miss Reading contest in 1922. She won. As part of her gift, she was given a set of pearls. I don't think this is the set of pearls she's wearing here. This is part of her publicity photos. She was given a professional photo shoot from Pomeroy's, and she was also given a...
which meant John Tincture took the picture.
She was also given a chair, and there's a plaque on the back of the chair stating what the prize was. And there was also... She also purchased a separate stool to go with the chair, matching the same fabric style. But if I could get a camera here on the table, we recently had her son. She's unfortunately since deceased, but she was featured in a number of newspaper articles. Her son recently brought in a wonderful collection of papers, photographs, the stool, the chair, and on the table here we have the original trophy from 1922 with her name, and let's see if we can get a close-up on that. There we go. Miss Evelyn A. Reniger, winner of Reading Beauty Contest, September 5th, 1922. 39 years, was it the next year she went to the Miss America Beauty Pageant in Atlantic City?
I think so.
She unfortunately did not win, but we also have a series of photos from a 1961 reunion of all the former Miss Americas and former contestants for Miss America.
Now there's an interesting story about that, in that when she sent in her application, whoever's in the Miss America pageant people had to contact her and ask for proof that she was in the contest, because they lost all their records prior to 1935 from a hurricane. So she had to have people send in letters saying, yes, she did compete for the Miss America pageant. And
oh, I didn't realize that. So that's a neat little item. It's a lot easier to bring down than the stool, but the stool has a wonderful brass plaque on the back of it saying that it was awarded to Evelyn as part of her winnings as a 1922 Miss Reading. And then, for the next group of photos, my last group of photos, on the computer, should be able to just go to the next one there, Kim.
I'm doing this left-handed. Okay.
There we go. This past Saturday, recognize anybody in that photo, George? This past Saturday, we had our wonderful historic property tour in the northwestern section of Kutztown, between 143 and the back roads of Kutztown 222, and just brought along a few photos to show some photos from the wonderful day we had. We had a nice article in the Eagle on Sunday. Haven't quite counted all the tickets yet, so we're not quite sure of how many people we got in total. But the sites that I was at stayed pretty busy throughout the day. It was a few times we were worried about where we're going to put people, but it came out wonderfully. On the left-hand side, this is actually site number 1, and I got to thank Doug Reinert for bringing these photos in and going along the tour. This is at site number 1. On the left is one of our very, very well-loved trustees, Boots Fair, along with the property owner at Site 1. We had to have a number of volunteers for the tour to not only help with parking, but also to help guide people through the house and also help people at the variety of sites for directions and what have you. And we also sold tickets at Site 6. Next slide. This is the Dunkel's Dell. It's an exterior. It's actually the back exterior of Site number 1, up along the tour there.
Okay, you're in Maxitoni Township.
Yeah, Maxitoni.
Near the old creamery.
Yep. This is Stephanie Kindick, and again, one of our trustees helping out with parking. This is also at Site 1. Some of these sites are pretty complicated. The site where I was at was on a blind curve, so we were very, very, very grateful for our volunteers to help us out through the day. Another beautiful site. The scenery up there was absolutely amazing. We had a lot of wonderful comments. We were worried about the weather at one point, but it turned out to be pretty nice day.
Yes.
This is a cozy corner. The original structure, a little hard to see, but the original structure dates to the 18th century, but it's sort of modern construction around the original 18th century portion. That's one of the reasons we call it the 4 centuries in Berks County property tour, because of the modern construction. Vicki Hefner, she's our education curator. She was also at Site 2. Her and Janice Longlot are especially, we're especially thankful for them to coordinate the tour. Vicki always helps us to organize the tours and organize the pre-tour luncheon, and also we always have a Sunday before the Saturday pre-tour, so everybody can get together and also see the properties for themselves, because during the tour it's just too busy. You can't get out and see the tour. Jose and his wife, who helped keep a place spick and span, they came out and helped us park. I actually worked with them at Site 3 and 4 here. There's a nasty curve around the corner of the road, and we're also very grateful to the township for helping us with cones and signs and what have you to try to control people from speeding around the corner there. One of the best, they were all wonderful, but this is probably my personal favorite, was the barn here. The barn itself dates back to the mid-1800s or late 1800s, but it was a conversion done about 10 years ago, and it's absolutely beautiful on the inside. I think there's another exterior shot, if you could click again, Kim. That's the back of the barn, absolutely beautiful barn. The inside, they took great pains to preserve the integrity and fabric of the building on the inside, and there's original broad wooden beams on the inside with ladders to the hay mounds and what have you. Seven Springs Farm was built in the 1780s and enlarged in 1792. The addition on the right-hand side was the 1792 addition. Coming up on the piggies, this is where the next couple of photos, you'll see some piglets. This is the barn at Grimdahl. Working barn, and the gentleman had some tractors on display there as well. The house across the street is undergoing renovations, but just a beautiful barn.
It's a handsome barn.
Not sure if we have a photo of him, but Patrick Dunmoyer, who came on in for the and did a program on Barn Stars. He's a Kutztown graduate. He did a previous to the tour program in Barn Stars.
Was that the farmer we just saw?
No, that was Syme.
Was that Syme?
No.
Yeah. Now, John Mertz, I think within the past couple of years, was up on a ladder painting. He repainted all the barn stars.
Yeah, handsome.
Mm-hmm. And the next photo, we have our executive director, Syme Bertolet, was unable to join us this evening, and his wife. They were depicted here at Site 6, wasn't it? Site 6 at Grimdahl.
There they are.
There we are. This was an added bonus to the tour. During the course of the tour, we had about 12 piglets who were born at the barn. I won't tell you my names for them, but it was a sort of a.
It literally went the entire day. She went into labor at 7 o'clock. She had the last one at probably like 3:30.
Oh my!
And the tour went till 4. So we do all we can to spice up the tour here, folks. And just a little display of tractors. That gentleman went all out to really make us feel at home and welcome. We had food there, and we also sold tickets there at Site 6. You can't see him, but Patrick Dunmore is in there. This is actually a Grin Manor. The manor itself is on the right-hand side. You'll see a shot of it in a second. Those are another couple of volunteers, Kate and Floyd Turner, helping us out with parking at Grin Manor. They're on their shade break here. Grin Manor itself, it's now a bed and breakfast. It dates back to 1801. Beautiful home on the inside, and looks like we have a home viewer, George.
Yes, home viewer. Hello, home viewer. You're on.
Yes. I want to talk about the Laureldale Station, the rail station.
Yes.
That building that you couldn't identify, that's the former bung patch.
That's what it was.
Building supply. And right behind that, believe it or not, is the Laureldale Cemetery.
Yes. Yes.
And that's
Appreciate your calling. Give us that name again.
the bung patch.
That's it.
Yeah, it's been sold recently, and they may have a different name on it now.
Ah.
But then across from the Laureldale Cemetery, of course, is the Beryllium Corporation.
Yes.
And catty corner across from Bun Patch was Chapin Lumber Company.
Yes.
And I worked there as a kid, and we had a small coal yard in the back, which that railroad used to serve us.
Oh.
Yeah.
I remember the lumber yard there in the corner.
Then that railroad runs up on the east side of the Schuylkill River, up to Leafport.
Uh-huh.
And up there off of Wall Street is where the Reading and Northern Railroad has some of the antique cars.
Yeah, that's the Reading Technical Historical Society up there in Leesport. They're mostly out of South Hamburg now there.
Near where the Agway up there used to be.
Yeah, that's the former Pennsylvania Road Schuylkill Division.
Yeah. Yeah.
We thank you for calling in.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we only have a couple photos here left of the tour. The next photo, I think Kim might recognize someone.
Dave. Go ahead.
I'm waiting for it to be.
Oh.
There we go. Oh.
Hang on, I went too far.
And this is at the last property right on 222 there. We actually had a lot of people start the tour backwards, shall we say. We always number it 1 through whatever. Usually it's 10, but this year it was 8. But we actually had a lot of people start the tour at number 8 because number 8 was right off 222 and easier to find. This is Dave Unger and Carl Peterson. They were helping with parking at Site 8. And the last photo is the, I'll probably mess this up, so excuse my pronunciation. It's called Divoskol, which is the Foxden, and that building dates to 1774. And that's right on 222, so you might recognize it from time to time. Beautiful home on the inside. The doorways on the exterior are pretty short, so I just about had an involuntary decapitation on there in the pre-tour. But the inside doorways are pretty tall, but it's a beautiful building. So you can see really what a wonderful treat it is to get on the inside some of these houses. Unfortunately, we couldn't show the interior photographs, but you can just imagine how wonderful they look on the inside. So we hopefully can have you join us for next year's property tour. Not sure where it is. We've had people jokingly ask that question for the past 2 weeks. Don't ask Janice. Don't poke the bear. But we're looking forward to next year's tour already.
Thank you, Joshua.
As soon as we figure out where we go.
Let me go back to a couple of pictures again. I think I saw at number 1, I believe.
Yep.
There's a section in the book, actually one of the longest section. I managed to get a hold of some rather good pictures, thanks to Kim, who did a great deal of the research work as far as gathering the pictures for us. Robisonia Furnace functioned until the 1920s. We're just going to take a quick look at these. The whole history of the operation, and it's rather lengthy, is discussed in the Robisonia Furnace section. That's one of the best views. You notice how well manicured things look on the left-hand side. It was like a park there at one time. In the later years, that sort of disappeared. But that's looking on to the casting house directly in front of us. That's the oldest picture that I know of the Robisonia Furnace complex. That probably is from the 1870s. I don't know whether you can see it, but there's a gentleman in the front on the right-hand side who's holding a piece of pig iron.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Oh, you can actually point with it.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Okay, the long view of the Robisonia Furnace. By the way, if you go to that general site, and I've included a map with all the sites of interest in that furnace area, so that and everything is numbered so that you can actually go to the sites today to see what's there. There are a lot of remains that you can find sort of in the little woods and in the dead of winter. I was there about a month ago, and even a month ago I could still see that there was a lot back there sort of in the woods. Now, looking through the trees on the left-hand side, you see part of the old Robisonia furnace office building, one of the few things that survive other than the mansion house.
It's always amazed me a place like that. When you go back there today, it's so peaceful with a creek right on the road right above the stream there. There's always people fishing there during seasonal good weather.
That's the Robisonia furnace office. The old safe is still in there. Lester Brininger and his good wife own this property today. And for a while, Lester was having POS of A meetings on the second floor. It was a very handsome setup. It's a fine, fine building. And directly across the street is the Robisonia Furnace Mansion. That's still there. It was generally used by the superintendent over the years. Another good view of the furnace. And on the left-hand side, you see some of the company homes. As was true with all the old ironworks, they supplied homes for the workers so that they would be right there on the site. That picture was taken the day that the furnace was sold, and it was, I think, June of 1928. And this picture was in the newspaper. I copied that out of the newspaper, and thinking to myself, well, I wonder what it looks like today. And we went looking for it, and that's what it looks like today. Can we go back to the previous one?
Not bad.
Actually, there's a twin. There were two that looked exactly the same, and they were actually walking distance apart, one from the other. So this was on the Furnace Road.
I'm surprised that porch is still like that.
That's surprising. You know, very little actually that has changed. The spouting, most of that's still there. Now, off in the background, there sort of across the center of the screen, you have the slag pile. Now, there are many home viewers, I think, who will remember going up to Robisonia, to Mummelsdorf, and on the way, you'd look over onto the far left, and you would see that enormous slag pile. That was actually a slag pile accumulation over 200 years, and people used to say, that slag pile, that'll be there forever, they'll never get rid of it. Well, the slag pile is gone. When they worked on the highway, that disappeared for fill. But that was an accumulation of the entire run of the furnace until the day that it shut. And that slag pile was there after the furnace shut, because I can remember seeing it when we would go up to Myerstown.
They're still going through the slag pile at E.G. Brook in Birdsboro.
Are they?
They sell it for highway construction, and they also sell it makes really good roofing material, but they just put it on top of the flat roofs, and it holds the moisture very well.
There was a company in Reading, a slag roof company.
They're still going, I forget what the name of the company is, but they're still selling slag material out of that.
Where is that slag pile? I can't picture.
It's where E.G. Brook plant used to be. If you go over, if you're coming from Birdsboro, going over the 82, well, it's now 345 bridge, right on the left-hand side, you see this ramp down right before you cross the river over the bridge. And that was the entrance to the railroad station, but also to the E.G. Brook Company. And there's a gate there under the railroad bridge, but Monday through Friday, they're usually there processing slag.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
That might be worth a picture.
Yeah, there's not much to see, unfortunately. It's just a
slag
pile and a block of concrete in a modern office trailer.
Yeah, I remember when they took that station away. Anyhow, there's another view. Notice that huge smokestack. That was there, was it 150 feet high, I think. It was rather impressive in height. Next. That's the back of the furnace mansion, generally the home of the superintendent. A beautiful building that went back, went back to the early 1800s, about 1806 or so. The next. The long view. There is your slag pile on the left-hand side looming in the background. No, it's on the, you can't see. It's on the right-hand side. Yeah, sure, because we would be looking, I guess, eastward there, because the slag pile was on the south side. Okay, the next. We'll stop after we look at this one. There's a story in there about Matilda Edwards. Matilda Edwards knew Abraham Lincoln in his youth quite well in Illinois. As a matter of fact, he was greatly smitten by that 16-year-old Matilda. It's a rather interesting story. She lies buried in Charles Evans Cemetery. She and Mary Todd sort of vied for Lincoln's affections, and for a while he broke off with Mary Todd. But in the end, Matilda Edwards married an attorney from Reading, and came back to Reading and lived at 5th and Court Streets in a house that's no longer there. When they widened Court Street, they took away the portion of the ground where the house used to sit. Actually, it was right beside the Episcopal Church. She died very young and was buried in Charles Evans Cemetery. And Michelle Lynch, editor of the Historical Review of Berks County, wrote a very affecting story about Matilda Edwards and her adventures in Illinois and her meeting of Abraham Lincoln. Let's take a break, and Kim, turn it over to you.
Yay! Okay, well, October is a very busy month for the archives. First off, the Henry Johnson Library is participating in the Berks Literary Festival, also known as Reading Reads, and it was started around 2005 by radio personality and society trustee Charlie Adams and some of his friends and colleagues. While we're participating, we're highlighting the Berks Authors Collection. I still have not gone through all those books yet, but we've got
Maybe you haven't read them all yet?
Yeah, I haven't even pulled half of them off the shelves yet. But they're all books on history of Berks County, books written by Berks County and whatnot. Just keep in mind that these books are non-circulating. You have to use them while in the library, and we're open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 4.
It is a fabulous collection. Virtually everybody who's written a book is represented in that collection.
Yes.
That is an incredible. Do you have any idea how many books there are in that collection?
I've processed all of the A's.
Oh.
And some odds and ends.
Only 25 letters left.
And I think I've processed 100 books and haven't made a dent in the collection yet. And that's just basically I've got a shelf done, and it's 2 shelving units. So and we didn't have enough room, so we still have 7 boxes. So,
that is a fabulous collection. It really is.
There's got to be over 1,000 books there.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, so that's on display. And then October, more importantly, unfortunately, is, well, not really, National Archives Month. And it's a month-long event for you to get to know your friendly neighborhood archivist. Basically, we try to focus on the importance of records and their value to the public. I do have some definitions for you. An archives is a place to go and find information, not in books, but first-hand facts, data, and evidence that you can find in letters, reports, notes, memos, photographs, audiovisual. Basically, we are the keepers of primary resources. My title, for those of you who would like to know, is archivist, because I get that a lot. I'm responsible for acquiring, managing, preserving, and helping patrons identify and use historically significant collections of unique material, such as government records, manuscripts, photographs, films, and recordings.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ken, but I think we have a home viewer.
Well, we have. Home viewer, you're on.
Yes, I have a question. I'm holding a bottle of beer. It says light pale ale. It says H.G. Simmons Limited, the Reading Brewery. And on the back, it has imported for the Bicentennial Exhibition, Reading, PA, produce of Great Britain. Did you ever have anything like that?
No.
The Reading Brewery did a special issue of cans for the Bicentennial in 1976, but I'm not familiar.
I'm not either.
With that. Is it still full? Is it glass or?
Yes, it's glass. It's full of beer, has a cap on.
Huh.
But it says imported for the Reading Bicentennial Exhibition.
Oh, it's 1948 then, probably.
It must be. And it says H&G Simmons Limited, the Brewery Reading,
Oh,
That's from
Reading, England.
1948.
Reading,
Yeah.
England.
Now,
That's our sister city. Yeah, they came over, the mayoress of Reading, England came over that time, and I can remember when she was here, because the first thing she did was they took her to Whitner's for the new escalator, and she went up and down on the escalator, but there was an exchange of a number of things. I wonder whether that's something that she might have, well, no, they said it was through the Reading Brewery.
It would be from 48,
It
wasn't
would be 1948.
Yeah, but it says produce of Great Britain.
That's it, Reading, England.
Yep. We probably sent back and forth items with them as for.
Yeah, because I never heard of a Simmons Brewing Company from Reading.
Well,
No,
that's
but
probably
Reading, England.
Right. Now, I've never heard of anything like this. I have it wrapped up, and just wondered if that's something very unusual.
That is
I've
unusual.
never heard of it.
seen
I'd be
no.
curious to see. We have some anniversary items in our collection. We'd be curious just to get a photograph or just to have a look at it.
Yeah.
Sure, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feel free to stop by or give me a call beforehand, but Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 4.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Kim?
Sorry, Kim.
That's okay. So this year's theme of Archives Month is celebrating the American record. And what a lot of people don't realize is that photographs, as George likes to use, are a great way of documenting history. And what I did is I brought some old photographs to show. The first is a daguerreotype, and it was done upside down. The case is actually of an American eagle, but it's upside down in the case. A daguerreotype is a negative image, and I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well. They're in general use between the 1839 and the 1860s. And they were basically only good for, they kind of like hit their height for 10 years. And then,
by the way, Reading had two daguerreotypists as early as 1840, 1 year after the invention.
Mm-hmm. Photographs kind of were started around the 1820s, but they started picking up in the 1830s with the various types of early photographs. Now, the opposite of a daguerreotype, which we don't have, is an embryotype. The closest thing to at least the process would be the glass plate negatives. Embryotypes were in use between 1851 and 1865, and they actually replaced the daguerreotype. But the same process that was used on the embryotype were used on glass plate negatives, which I also brought. Glass plate negatives were used between 1850. Oh, hey, that did work. Between the 1850s and as late as the 1960s, they used the glass plates.
Because I bought some 4x5 glass plates in 1967. They were using them for astronomical photography. That was the basic use for them because of the stability of the backing.
And then another early form of photographs that we have are tintypes, or also they're ferriotypes. This ranges between 1856 and 1930, and it's actually kind of on this is actually metal. And what you can't see, and you can only see it if you come into the library, his cheeks are actually all rosy. They're all pinked up.
I think his pants have been tinted too, so it doesn't.
Yep, they're slightly blue. What's really good about Archives Week month is there's all kinds of information out there that you can get regarding care of your photographs. I do have some because everybody likes my archival tips. If you ever run into questions regarding your collections, feel free to call me, but you can also visit the National Archives, the Library of Congress, and the Society of American Archivists online. They all offer online help for your own collections. But some basic preservation techniques for your photographs, make sure that they stay in a cool, dry, stable environment. We recommend between 55 and 70 degrees or between 30 and 50% humidity. Please don't store your photographs and paper in your attic, basement, or garage. Heat, light, and sun do cause damage. Indoor pollution also causes damage, so especially if you want to frame your photographs, please take them to a framer where they can use museum quality mats, and there's a special museum glass that they can use as well. Never store your documents or photographs folded. In general, and this is a kind of a slight recommendation for George as well, they recommend that you use black and white photography, only because color prints and negatives, the technology for that is not as stable, and black and white tend to last longer. And this also goes for people who like to use actual film. Film is more stable than digital photographs.
For sure.
So if you like to use your actual film camera, please go for it and send us the pictures. They also recommend that if you're going to print your photographs at home, that there's no preservation standards for digital photography and printing at home, so try to use the paper and the ink recommended by the printer manufacturer. And we always recommend that you back up your digital photographs and update your technology, because if you don't, you could lose everything.
There's another big one that you haven't said. Never put your photographs in those albums that have, they call them the magnetic albums. You put your picture in, and then you cover it over with like an adhesive. That is a disaster.
It takes years for the glue that they use on that to detach itself.
Destroys the pigment.
Yeah, and if you're into scrapbooking, just note that a lot of the inserts that you use for photographs, all the scrapbooking paper and basically all the scrapbook stuff is all acid-free, including the pigments that you can use to draw on the paper. So, scrapbook away, because it'll pretty much preserve it.
Mm-hmm. Did you have something to tell us about the Mad Hatter?
Yeah, I certainly did. Thank you very much, Kim.
Very good. Thank you, Kim.
This Saturday, we'll be participating in the Center Park Historic District Flea Market Show, which starts at 8 o'clock and goes till about 2 or 4 o'clock. And we'll also have an open house down at the Hendel during that time as well. But we'll have some tables out front. We'll have some really nice toys, books, postcards, and reproduction of historic documents at a really good price. So come on down. But later this month at the Hendel House as well, we have our second annual Mad Hatter Masquerade Tea Party at our Hendel House. That's going to be on Saturday, October 31st from 7 p.m. till 10:30 or whenever we feel like stopping, going home. But we welcome you to come enjoy the music of Sid Watts, have a private tarot card reading, a bone-chilling...
He's very good.
Oh, he's a little too good, but he's if you've never had one done, it's an experience. We have a bone-chilling theater entertainment for Halloween, of course, a silent auction, prizes, games, and catering by Ted and Carl, who always have wonderful food, and we're having the Jazz Cats come down and provide some musical entertainment. The cost is $35. That's really not bad considering what you're getting for all that, but includes appetizers, wine, soda, desserts, and there's a cash bar for cocktails. We have reservations. You can just call us directly, 610-375-4375, and speak to Judy and Audrey and make your reservations with us. But please do come on down. It's a wonderful evening, and there's plenty of parking.
It's a great evening.
They're encouraged to dress up, too, right?
They always have a couple of prizes for the best hats.
Yeah, so root your closets. You're probably rooting through them already for Halloween, but come bring your best, weirdest, funniest, wackiest hat, and come on down. One thing else before we close for the evening, I was remiss to thank our sponsors for our property tour, because without them there would be no property tour. We'd like to thank our signature sponsor, William J. Cuck and Associates, and we'd also like to thank Associated Construction, Comcast, the Auxiliary of the Historical Society of Berks County, the Highlands of Wyomissing, Phoebe Berks Village, Land Display. You might have seen some of their wonderful billboards around the county. Reading Eagle Press, Reese Advertising, Vist Insurance, and Weidenhammer Systems for their sponsorship of the tour. We owe an incredible debt of thanks to them for making the tour possible. So thank you very much. And I think we might have a couple slides to finish off the program.
Okay, we'll have a couple slides. The poorhouse, the old almshouse in Shillington. We're looking northward. The road in the foreground is Route 724, And as you head into Shillington, that would be Philadelphia Avenue. That is the oldest representation of the almshouse or the poorhouse at Shillington that I've ever seen. I think it's dated 1854. The poorhouse itself, or the almshouse, opened in 1825, 24,
26. The first patient who walked through the doors was 1826.
26, okay. And it closed in 1952 when they opened Berksheim. That is, if you see that up close, that is a very, very impressive representation. Now, some of you have seen the pictures of what they call the poorhouse paintings. There were 3 itinerant German artists who produced those. You compare this picture, this representation, to the poorhouse paintings, and you'll be quite surprised because almost all those buildings were either replaced or added to very considerably. It says on there, and I can't read it from here, something about the almshouse, the lunatic asylum.
Yeah, it's the view of the almshouse, hospital, lunatic asylum, and agricultural buildings of Berks County.
Okay, by the way, I know you would find it interesting. There's a piggery up here in the foreground on the right-hand side. But they closed the lunatic wing when they opened the Runnersville State Hospital, I think about 1894. By the way, when they opened that hospital, they gave it a wonderful name, which certainly left nothing to the imagination as to the function of the place. It was the South Mountain Asylum for the Chronic Insane. They used to have a big sign along the road. Anyhow, the
almshouse. Didn't know what PC was at that time.
That's for sure. But that's a wonderful representation. By the way, whatever you see in the background is artistic license. If you look at that background, you think, my goodness, there are factories there and all kinds of churches. The background is
Hui.
Is Hui, exactly. The next one, please. That's the back of the almshouse. That's how it looked in its later days. And the one section in the back would have been that original lunatic wing, which was, they removed the people in 1894. But that's a rather rare view. That's one that you don't ordinarily see. And I have to thank Ray Hildenbrand for making that photograph available. Next. Wilmersdorf, that's a rather rare picture. Jim Hoffert of the Moulton area made this available for the book. The evangelical church is over there on the left-hand side. You can just about barely see the steeple, but that's Old Zion, which would be in the cemetery today, right near the Topahokan Area Settlement Society. Old Zion was torn down, unfortunately, in 1958, something that many people in that general area have bemoaned, that it was removed. Okay, tell your friends about our program, which is on live the first Wednesday of each month at 7. We thank today's program associates, Joshua Blay and Kim Richards.
My pleasure, George. Thank you.
We thank you. We look forward to have you joining us again on Wednesday, November the 4th, 2009. We thank you for watching the Historical Society's program. Goodbye.
The Historical Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.